Men and women, welcome to the fifth episode of Room 2250. I'm your host, Haider and Chris, along with my co-host,
Christopher McCarricker.
So, Chris, usually when we start this episode, we tell our listeners that our guest is very special.
Yeah.
But we've said this every single time, so what that actually means is that none of our guests previously were special.
So this time,
today we have an extraordinary guest.
Yes.
Because not only are they not from U of T,
Yes.
but they are the University Programs Specialist at Google, Kaylee McDonough.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
No? How are you today, Caitlin?
Doing well. Just came off the gardener, so just spiffy.
It's
early in the morning when we're taking this podcast right now, so I think everyone's a little bit tired.
No, not enough coffee. No, I used to in second year. I used to drive in from Hamilton to school. So taking the gardener is just such a nightmare.
It's always a joy, isn't it? Yeah.
Back then, it wasn't even completed.
Yeah.
So you would always be stuck in that, like, 2 lanes coming in, and now they're like 3 lanes for some of it, but it's still mostly 2 lanes.
Yeah.
I was like, this is such a horrible.
You always have to budget at least 2 hours, but
yeah.
I made it, and I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. Chris, how are you?
Doing all right. Feeling a little bit under the weather, but I'm looking forward to going to sleep after this podcast episode.
Good
actually.
plan.
How are your midterms?
They went pretty good. I just finished them a couple days ago. Man, that was a stressful week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I've been trying to, for my last year, to put extra work into my schooling, which is nice, but I like sleeping, so it's not as nice as it could be.
All right. So we're just gonna go into housekeeping. So there's 2 things.
Okay.
One is on 31st of October. We have our Halloween night event,
Nice.
along with our annual general meeting for the CSSU.
Yeah, and they're happening at the same time.
Same time. So we'll probably do that. We're doing the meeting first.
So general meeting is going to be in costume.
In costumes, and then after that we'll be carrying on with the event.
Yeah.
I don't think we still haven't chosen a movie yet.
I was thinking about that. That's it's fast approaching.
It's fast approaching. We better choose a movie.
So hopefully by the time this episode's out, we'll have a movie for Halloween night. If not,
we're watching Blade Runner.
Favorite Halloween movie.
And then the second thing was, so some of you might have heard that the CSSU might not be able to carry Soylent because Soylent wants to stop shipping to Canada.
Yeah,
For-
still shipping in the United States.
Still shipping in the U.S., but they just didn't meet the criteria for something, and for now it's going to be on hold.
Yeah, it'll probably come back eventually.
Yeah. We still have some in stock, but we won't raise prices on them.
Yeah.
Price gouge them. No. So that's just 2 pieces of breaking news. So I think housekeeping.
breaking
Man, it's too
news.
early in the morning.
I feel the Soylent thing. I feel like for a lot of CS people's breaking news. Like, oh no, can't get my meal supplement, but
For the morning. Oh man. Anyways, so going to news. So first bit of news comes from the varsity. So students with mental health issues may be subjugated to mandatory leave.
really, what?
Yeah. So this is brand new. This was proposed a while ago, but this is being talked about publicly now. So the policy is to if students who are currently suffering from mental illness and have displayed significant impairments in their academic performance or aggressive behavior towards themselves or others, will be suspended.
Is this for their sake too? Then, because this could be, I feel like, seen as a very negative thing.
I mean, I think it is for their sake, but I don't know if it's going to help them.
Yeah, might make things worse.
Yeah,
I don't know what the reasoning is. I mean, I hope they're professionals making these kind of decisions.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That sounds a little bit, not too nice. In some ways.
I'm just like, I don't know if this is gonna help with the problem. Obviously they've seen the problem, but they're like, I don't think this is the solution to what you're looking for.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little half-assed. That's what I think.
Isn't that all of UTSU?
Yeah.
So that's it from the varsity. So the next bit of news is from Twitter. So Twitter has promised more ad transparency, and what this means is that when people who are funding ads, they'll be made clear how much they funded and who they are.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, so it's especially for those who are pushing like a political agenda.
Yeah, I feel like for the past 12 months or so, a lot of people have been looking about how ads are funded and whatnot have been like the views of it have been changed significantly.
Yeah.
So that's good to see, though.
Yeah, at least from Twitter for now.
Yeah.
But hope to see what others do.
I mean, I think most of the tech giants have been kind of focusing on improving their ad transparency. Like, I remember Facebook too was really under fire a while ago for it.
Yeah.
And I think they've done a lot of like good to improve it.
Didn't Facebook have that like automation news detection that kind of just put
Yeah,
fake news all over the place?
Well, that was an issue, and I mean they've improved it since. Obviously.
Yeah, no, I remember that as well. Yeah. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Second bit of news is that Tesla solar powers have arrived in Puerto Rico.
That's really cool.
So it's like, I guess, the one promise Elon Musk has actually followed through on.
Just give him 30 years, all right? Just give him 30 years.
No, I don't know if I told you, but I pre-ordered the Model 3 last year, and now it's probably going to be delayed till 2020. And there's no way I'm waiting 4 years for a car.
For a car, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, Elon, you promised me.
Elon breaks hearts. That's what he does. He's a bad boy.
Clearly. Chad. So, in New Zealand news, so tell me if this sounds familiar.
Okay.
New Zealand has banned foreign home buyers, and this is because their prices were house prices were going really high, so people couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
In New Zealand, so now they've made it that you have to be a resident or a citizen to buy a house.
Really?
Yeah.
So what would happen if someone wants to go to New Zealand and live there? Would they have to wait till residency to get a house?
You can rent a house.
Right.
You can't buy property.
Okay.
Which is sounds something Vancouver tried doing.
It sounds familiar. I don't know how else it's gonna work out.
I
feel like that could have disastrous consequences depending on, I don't know, that could be bad for the market, could be good for the market.
I mean, it'll slow down the market.
Yeah, it'll definitely slow down the market.
But I don't know. I thought it was interesting. I never saw somebody like completely ban out. No, we don't want your money anymore.
I don't think Vancouver didn't do that.
No.
Toronto hasn't done that. Vancouver
they
hasn't
have
done that.
Foreign buyers tax.
Yeah.
Which is
Did they ever tax, or did it just go straight to banning?
No, it just went straight to ban.
All right, that's a very extreme thing to just go right into.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty cool. Never seen a government do something like that.
It's definitely interesting, yeah.
So last bit of news is comes from France. So there was this French game show host with this entrepreneur who came up and said, "I have $1,000 in Bitcoin that's behind this QR code."
Okay.
But they blurred out the QR code. Except they didn't blur out all of it. So
Okay.
these two guys who were just sitting down watching the news saw a bit of the QR code. They're like, can we actually like run an algorithm that will predict the entire thing?
Yeah.
And they can take the $1,000. It was 60 pounds.
That's amazing.
So, and they were able to do it. It took them 12 to 16 hours. And
it's good pay for just something you're messing around with on your own.
Yeah, no, it was so. The best part was that the entrepreneur who had this QR code never planned on giving it out.
Yeah.
And so that's how they found out. They're like, man, somebody actually took it. So, but they never.
That's not. I mean, like, okay. Story aside, $700 is not saying much for an entrepreneur. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
it's like I'm giving back to the community $700 of all my riches.
No, it's maybe in France it's a lot.
I'm sure there's a couple of rich people in France. I feel like
that's true. I don't know. But nonetheless, it was pretty cool. They actually came out and talked about who they were. Like the news article mentions their name as well.
Were they like software people or just people just writing down numbers and typing in a computer?
I don't know. I feel like they were just sitting down there, and they're like, it's like Michael Sassano and Clement Storok. Probably butchered their names, but
yeah,
those were the guys. But yeah, it's all for the news.
Okay.
So now, Caitlin, you've been quiet, but now it's all about you.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So I actually forgot to talk about this. You're a university program specialist, and both me and Chris were wondering, what does that mean?
That's a great question. So university programs at Google is sort of the first engagement step in the process of getting students connected to Google. So my job, I think I'm biased, I think it's one of the best jobs at Google, is getting to come to campus and meet students like you. So later today we're hosting 2 different events, actually, this afternoon and this evening. And as part of our engagement, we bring our campus partners, our Google engineers, who are often U of T alumni, today they both are, back to campus to run events and engagement opportunities and developmental programs for students. So everything from technical interview prep, because as you know, that's a very popular and often necessary skill to learn, and we love to support students in building that skill, all the way through to tech talks about the really cool project areas and products that our teams are working on, to really share a lot more about our culture with students and help students understand what opportunities are available both in the internship space and in the university graduate space. So if you're looking at graduating, we have lots to share about, what kinds of roles are available. So we're here, my role is essentially to be here as a resource for students. So any questions they have, application related, role related, I can kind of pull back the curtain a little bit on what's happening at Google and help them hopefully find an opportunity that fits with their goals and skills.
Cool. That's very cool.
Yeah, that's exactly why you're an extraordinary guest and not an ordinary special.
Not just a student.
Or just a professor.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Well, you guys are an extraordinary podcast.
So
thank you.
I'm happy to be a guest on it.
I think we're the best CS podcast in U of T.
I would agree.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. So the first question is, this is we'll start off a bit slow, but what is it like working for Google?
Yes, wow. So I think that's an awesome question, and it can be answered by every Googler in a different way. But from my perspective, imagine working with some of the smartest people in the world on the coolest projects that have the most impact, and having free food in between. That's basically working at Google in a nutshell. Really wonderful food that helps you, stay energized and do your best work. So I think, all jokes aside, the perks are there for a reason. We have really wonderful benefits for Googlers, and I've been really fortunate to take advantage of that. I think since I started about 1.5 years ago, I haven't grocery shopped really that much. I've enjoyed the really wonderful, healthy food. Food is a huge part of our culture. It's a really, a core piece of what makes Google special. And like I said, it's there for a reason. Googlers are hard at work, and they're working on some of the biggest, most complex real-world problems. So to have to not have to think about what you're going to have for lunch or for dinner, and to eat the food that is really healthy and keeps your brain sharp and you're able to do your best work is really important. So I see that, that benefit as something that's really wonderful. And I think beyond that, you end up taking advantage of a lot of other really wonderful things as part of Google. Perks included family benefits, opportunities for parents, for students who are going back to school, all the way through to a culture, I think, that really speaks to transparency. So you mentioned in the news there a little bit about transparency of ads and the big tech giants really moving more towards that kind of openness and transparency, and that's something that is very core to Google's beliefs. Having that culture that values everybody's voice as a Googler. So myself included, I've felt from day one that I had a voice at the table as part of my team, and every Googler has that experience when they start on a team. We want everyone to feel like they have a meaningful impact within their team. So you can express your opinions, your thoughts, your ideas in the way that you work with your team. And I think that's a really wonderful and important thing. I think that happens day to day. 360, Googler manager feedback happens on a regular basis, all the way through to we host an annual company-wide survey. It's called Google Geist, and everyone gets to anonymously input their feedback about what it is like working at Google, what their experience has been. And I think having that kind of forum for very open communication is very important. It allows everyone to really feel like their voice has an impact, and it does. We look at those results from the Google Geist survey, and we implement change based on what Googlers have told us. And I think that's a really important piece of the equation, is to always be improving and always be evolving. So I've seen that very, very acutely, that evolution, and that listening to our Googlers is a really important piece of the culture. And so I think that, for me, is probably one of the biggest things that makes Google so special.
To add on to this, I've heard at Google they always give time for people to work on their own projects too for Google. Like I think I heard Google Maps actually was like a side project that someone just wanted to do for fun.
Whoa, no, are you serious?
Yeah.
That's right. That's called the 20% project.
Right.
So the idea is, for those that haven't heard of this, you can work 100% of your time on your core role at Google. That's completely wonderful, and many do. But what you can also do is, if you have that sort of side project passion or an idea that has sparked your interest, that is related to what we do at Google, but could be unrelated to your actual product area and the work that you do on a day-to-day basis, you can take 20% of your work time to work on that. So really cool, innovative ideas come out of that because you're given that space and that comfortable time to work on something that you are interested in. So you're right, really, neat things have come from that. In addition to Maps, Gmail was actually a 20% project. So we had a couple of Google engineers who sat down over lunch at one of our micro kitchens and had a chat, and Gmail came out of that chat, which is really cool. Makani, which is now another Alphabet company, was also one of those 20% projects originally. So really neat, innovative ideas evolve from those kinds of collaborative ideas and expressions. So that, again, kind of speaks to the whole culture of transparency and allowing our Googlers, like you said, to think outside the box and to think for themselves and come up with really new and innovative ideas. Because we're only, as good as the sum of our parts, and those parts are the people that work for us. I mean, really brilliant, amazing ideas come from them.
I'm actually kind of blown away.
Yeah.
Especially about the Google, like Gmail is actually bigger in my opinion than Maps. Because it was like...
Yeah, I use Gmail literally every day, like multiple times every day.
Yeah. I used to use Hotmail, and Jesus... What a mess that became. So I'm so glad I moved to Gmail. If anybody hasn't done so, you should. And I'm not just saying that, and I'm telling you why. Because I got locked out of my Hotmail account, and the reason was literally because they just locked me out. They're like, you have to enter your old, like, tell me what your last 5 emails were. I'm like, I don't know what my last 5 emails were. And then if you to submit the application, it's reviewed by a computer. Not by a person,
by a
computer. So you're just never gonna get it back. And I'm like, it's horrible.
I'm just saying to you on a resume, between Hotmail and Gmail looks a lot better on a resume.
Yeah,
that's what I've heard from people as well.
I'm looking at you, UFT. Stop using Outlook. Oh my God, there's a point I wanted to add, but I think I forgot. Oh yeah, you guys. So you guys call yourselves Googlers.
Googlers, yeah, exactly. I know it's a pretty cool term to go by. We have different terms for different sort of stages or folks in the Google, world. So if you're pregnant, you have a baby, you would have a nooglet, is often what they're called. If you are part of one of our employee resource groups, which so background on those, everyone at Google has lots of different interest areas and is a part of different, hobbies or pastimes or groups that they identify with. So for those groups, we have created employee resource groups where folks who are like-minded can get together and connect on those areas. So for example, is for some folks who are older, we call them Greglers. Or for folks from the LGBTQ community, we have Geglers. So there's lots of different sort of plays on the Googler phrase that have evolved out of it over the years.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's a neat moniker to go by.
So what do you call Google users then? Which I traditionally call those Googlers myself.
True. So that I think comes from the external side. We typically refer to anyone using a Google product as our users.
Right.
So that users are first and foremost in everything we're working on and talking about and thinking about at Google. So everything is built from the point of view of the user, with the user in mind. So unfortunately, we don't have a fancy word for them. They are our users.
Okay. I gotta say, calling yourself a Googler sounds a lot better than I'm a Yahooer.
Yeah. Yahooer.
That's pretty fun too.
So just to follow up on that question, so that was you talked a lot about what was your personal experience like. So what is it like for maybe interns who are working at Google? Is it kind of the same pattern? Yeah.
So I think one of the really cool things that I've witnessed with interns who've come into Google, and I think it's something that even as a noogler, that's the other play on the term. When you are new to Google, you are a noogler. So I'm not sure what the statute of limitations on the noogler moniker is, because I think I've moved out of it after maybe a year or so. You become a Googler. But I digress. Yes, when you're an intern, you come in, when you join a team at Google, you're a big part of something small. So the idea there is, we are a big company and we have thousands of employees across the globe, but we also have very intentionally small teams. So as an intern, you're paired up in your project match to one of those teams, dependent on your skill sets, your experience, your background, what your interest areas are, and we have an entire process that matches you to a team that you're not only going to add value to, but that you're really going to enjoy being a part of. And within that team, there's a ton of really close collaboration and connection. And I think what's really cool from an intern's perspective is you're going to come into an opportunity that's very team-oriented. So if you ask, I think, any intern, we've had some really wonderful focus group conversations with some of our interns, and we ask them, what's your most memorable thing or favorite thing about being an intern at Google? And they sort of unanimously agree it's the people that they work with on their team. And I mean, like I said, you're working with some of the smartest people that you will hopefully work with throughout your career. And by doing that, you learn a lot from them. So that collaboration and that team culture breeds innovation, and I think it breeds development for interns too. So you end up leaving that 4-month internship experience with a lot of skill building under your belt, not only from a technical perspective, but from a professional development perspective too, communication, networking, one-on-one conversations with your manager, learning those kinds of really important soft skills, you might call them, is I think a core part of what interns experience at Google because of that really collaborative team-oriented environment. And I think, what's neat is you're not only working with teams within your office, as you know, Google has, sites across the globe, and many of our product teams are located in different offices. So as an intern, you have an opportunity to not only possibly intern in a different location for 4 months, which is always great. I always say that's something you can kind of treat as a 4-month study abroad opportunity if you get the chance to go to Mountain View or to one of our distributed offices. But you're also collaborating with people across Google. So we have lots of internal tools that we use, Google Hangouts chat, I'm on it every day, Gmail, Docs and Sheets. Those are all built to be collaborative. So you see everybody in there together and sharing that conversation, adding comments, adding ideas. And I think that type of common space that is not only in the physical world but also in the online world, and the tools we use allows you as an intern to really get a feel for the entire culture at Google beyond just your team, but outside of that too. And I think that's what's very unique at Google is you get that really impactful team-oriented experience and also a taste of the entire Google culture at the same time.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Chris, you ready to sign up for Google?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what is unique, I was listening to your last episode, and I think you touched on the fact that teams in larger companies, and I think Google included, are all very different. So it always depends on the team that you are a part of. You could have a very different experience on one product team versus another. But I think that's also really special because you end up having something very personal to you from an experience perspective. And it allows you to not only have an internship where you learn and develop as part of, let's say, the Chrome team, but you could come back and have a returning internship on an entirely different team.
Right.
And once you're in and you start as an intern, you have that perspective, and you're able to kind of look at other teams around you and say, hey, that's one that I'd love to work on, and maybe lobby for that next time. So that sort of internal ability to get that scope of where you could go is a really cool thing too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was solid. Going to question number 2.
Yes.
So this is probably like the more bigger one.
This is probably the one I think most students want to probably know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you look for in interns?
Yes, great question. It's probably, like you said, one of the questions I'm asked the most on campus. And I think there is no one-size-fits-all answer. From the very beginning, we've been driven by sort of a search for insatiably curious people. So we're looking for folks who have the desire to ask really great questions and are not satisfied with the status quo, who are looking for ideas and answers that lead to different solutions and new innovations. So great answers aren't typically found by people who are kind of going to sit back and work with what exists.
Right.
We're looking for interns who think outside the box too. So one term we often use is 10x. So rather than taking a problem and improving upon it, maybe 10%, we're going to improve upon that 10 times. So we're thinking 10x all the time. And I think that kind of curiosity as a student is something that you have as part of your academic career. I mean, the courses you're taking, the work that you're doing is breeding that kind of thinking, and we're here to kind of extend that and support that as part of an internship. So any way that an intern and a student can really show on an application, and I think that is sort of the forum for how to really talk about yourself, and for us to get to know you. Your resume is your first interaction with Google, is to talk about the projects that you've worked on that really demonstrate that kind of curiosity and that problem solving. So projects in the sense of coursework that you're doing, part of groups, maybe individual projects that you're working on as part of your courses, or side projects too. If you've spun up a website, or if you're working on your own API, or you did something really cool with the team as part of U of T Hacks last year, something to that effect. Those are all really great ways to demonstrate the kind of analytical thinking and problem solving that you have tackled, and that you're interested in really pursuing. And I think what's drilling down a little bit more from that, what is important is talking about your technical proficiencies within the context of that. So we're really looking for folks who have proficiency in a couple of technical languages. Multiple is always better. But from a Google perspective, most of our product teams work on 3 core languages. So we're looking at Java, Python, and C++, and C in there as well. So any experience that students have with those technical languages and proficiency with them, it's really great to include that on a resume and to talk about it, not just from a, list off here are my technical languages and my skills in order of proficiency. That's great to include on your application, but to really tell us where and how you've used them, and what you've done to really demonstrate your level of understanding with data structures and algorithms, and experience writing code fixes, implementing solutions to complex problems. Those types of things that actually demonstrate your applicable contributions to your projects with your technical skills is a really important way for us to see what sets you apart and what could make you a really wonderful Google intern.
So generally speaking, the stress of the application is more on your projects and your actual technical abilities.
Yeah, I think it it's multifold. So I think we first and foremost, we look at your education. So the fact that you are U of T students is a tremendous thing. We have folks who are looking at that, looking for that. We understand the caliber of the courses that you take here at U of T and the reputation of the university. So I always say to U of T folks, first and foremost, put your education at the top of your resume. That's really, really important. Leverage that. Include your degree program, your expected graduation date, so we know what roles you would fit in the near term and maybe even in the longer term. So education first and foremost. Beyond that, I think work experience, so other relevant internships, that you've had where you've been able to really apply your theoretical knowledge to the real world. That's really important to include. So typically that can fall within a work or internship related experience, or it could be project experience too. So we see sort of a merge between the two sometimes. If you have a lot of work experience, that can kind of be its own section on your application, or if it's more project experience that you've worked on, that can be what you describe as well. But I think the core takeaway from both of those pieces is the application of your skills and really talking about where you've applied your technical abilities in very real world scenarios. So I think that is sort of the meat and potatoes of the application for sure, from a technical perspective. But I think and I may be jumping ahead a little bit, but I think one of the other follow-up questions that I often get after, what does Google look for in an intern is, okay, how can I stand out? How can I, build an application?
Stole my question.
I know, you usurped you. And I think that is a very, that's a tricky question to ask because everyone is unique and everyone has a very different set of experiences and skills. But I think what we're ultimately looking for on your application and within your interest in Google is we're looking for folks with a passion and a long-term commitment to computer science. So when you're able to demonstrate that in your work experience and your project experience, but also we're equally as interested in what you're doing outside of the classroom and outside of your project. So any extracurriculars that you're a part of, groups, clubs on campus.
Running a podcast.
That's right. Include that. Those are really great skills and experiences that demonstrate your passion, your commitment to your studies, and also what you're interested in pursuing. So any kind of teamwork or leadership experience, awards, scholarships, volunteer work with STEM-related students, those kinds of things can be really great indicators and help us understand what does set you apart. So where you're able to talk about yourself, and it being as honest and truthful and open about your interest areas as much as you can, that will really kind of that's the way that you can kind of stand out by telling us who you are, and let your personality shine through on your resume too. Like we have folks who read every single one, so we see that comes through in an application, no doubt. So be as inclusive as you can on your application.
To add on to this, a big concern many students have is GPA. Mm-hmm. At least compared to working on personal projects and relevant experience, how important is a good GPA?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think GPA, in terms of how Google looks at it, is important. It's one piece of the equation. So your GPA, or your academic average, is typically a really good indicator of success academically, and academic success is typically a very good indicator of industry success. So we look at it as a piece of the equation that can be a really helpful gauge on how you would do if you were to come in and be successful at Google. That said, it's not the entire picture. So as I mentioned, we're interested in things outside of your coursework. We're looking at extracurricular experience. We're looking at what you're doing in your own spare time, what projects you've built. Those are all really, really important pieces that demonstrate, like I said, your passion and your commitment to your studies and to pursuing your career in computer science. So while GPA is sort of a piece of that puzzle, we're also really equating all of that experience as just as important. So I think from a one size fits most perspective, there isn't sort of a formula that we can say it equals this percentage versus this percentage that we're looking at it. We've hired folks who have really, really tremendous academic GPAs and maybe not as much extracurricular experience. And on the flip side, we've hired folks who have a lot of really applicable, hands-on, real world experience and maybe not the strongest academics. So I think it shakes out somewhere in the middle, but I think rule of thumb is it's always really great to include your GPA. It helps us understand where you're at from an academic perspective. And as part of the application, when you're on google.com/students, you're going to upload your transcript as well. So we will, we'll see the courses that you're taking. And as I said, we have folks who understand the caliber of the courses here at U of T and what that means. So we're looking at it through the context of that as well.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah. All right, so we should go into question number 3. So why should people work for Google? So I know, in question number 1, you more answered.
Yeah.
What it's like. Yeah. And I know obviously some of the answers would be overlapping, but when I mean why should people work for Google, it's
what sets it apart?
What sets it apart from I guess we're gonna merge the follow-up question, but what sets it apart from the other big tech companies? Because a lot of these companies, more or less, this culture is obviously Google has its unique culture, but this culture is kind of not maybe duplicated exactly, but
not necessarily pervasive, but. Lots of tech companies have a good culture, and they all have their niche. Yeah. So what's Google's perspective specifically compared to other industries?
Why use Google? Yeah, not Bing. No.
I feel like that answers itself, but.
No, I think that's a really important question. And I think, from my perspective, and I think something I've really heard echoed from a lot of my colleagues, both on the university program side and on the engineering side, excuse me, is that at Google, you can bring your entire self to work. So what I mean by that is you can be whoever you are in 100% of that capacity at Google. And I think that, from my own previous work experience, that wasn't something that was always an opportunity or something that I was able to do as part of my professional experience. But it is at Google. And you see folks who come in and, they go beyond, it's beyond just the sort of be serious without wearing a suit idea. Of course, you can wear whatever you want to Google, and that's a wonderful thing. But we really want Googlers to be able to be themselves entirely at work. And I think when you create that kind of inclusive environment, which Google has done, it just feels like, a family. It feels like a space where you can get creative, you can think outside the box very comfortably, you're not worried about failing. In fact, you're encouraged to. you're able to sort of easily connect with one another because you have no walls up there. You're completely yourself, and you can celebrate your passions both through your work, but also, as I mentioned, through your personal interest areas. So things like our employee resource groups. So we have Black Googlers networks, Greglers, Giglers, Hispanic Googler networks, all kinds of opportunities for employees to really connect with one another and feel like they are really a part of that family within Google. And I think that what that does is, first and foremost, we're always, as I mentioned, focused on building our tools for our users. So in order to build products and solutions that meet the needs of all of our users, we're looking for teams of Googlers who are coming from diverse backgrounds, diverse experiences, diverse degree programs, sets of perspectives. And I think that from a hiring perspective is really core to what we look for, that diversity of experience and perspective, in order to build teams that can think together collaboratively but differently in a way that's going to end up with tools and products that really serve a broad set of our users. But more than that, I think diversity in the workforce, that's one thing, but I think it's also about inclusion and that retention of our teams. And I think inclusion is what really sets Google apart. Is once you have those teams who have been connected and supported, and you create that sense of cumulative inclusion within the company, that just creates a really wonderful sense of opportunity too for folks. So I think one of the cool things is you can join a team at Google that again, you're working with you're recruiting contact to find a team that is really the best fit for you. But over the years, we grow as people, and our interest areas change, and our skill sets grow too. And so there's a lot of opportunity for internal movement to move into different teams, into different opportunities within Google. So that, again, that sort of speaks to the inclusivity of opportunity. So I think that's something that is unique because Google is such a big ecosystem with a lot of different moving pieces and a lot of different sets of teams and folks and products, all coming from those diverse backgrounds, where you're able to move within that, I think is something that's really unique and special to Google. And I think the fact that that is so encouraged, that was something that I was really heartened by when I realized that, yes, I'm on a team currently, but if I chose to move to a different space or to work on something new, I could do that. And you can do that in the short term. We have things called bungees, where you can kind of work on a project, again, sort of similar to that 20% idea for a short period of time and come back to what you were doing after that. Or you can move into an entirely different space altogether. So I think that's just one component of what that culture of inclusion means, and certainly from my perspective. But I think that is something that Google really holds up as really special and core to who we are, and I think differentiates us in a big way in the tech space.
Yeah. So last question, is something what you're going to be talking about later on today. Yeah. Is so what opportunities does Google have for first and second years who are looking to build their skills?
Yes, I'm glad you asked. Because that is something that I wanted to share with students on campus, and I will be chatting about later this afternoon as well. But I think one of the common themes that I hear is oftentimes earlier students, first and second year students, might not realize that we actually have internship opportunities for early years folks. Typically, you of course everybody knows about our software engineering internship, and I think most often you see third and fourth year students, maybe sometimes second year students with really strong experience, move into a software engineering internship in the traditional sense, where you are an intern and you have an intern host and you work through a project over the course of 4 months and you do really awesome things and learn a lot of cool skills. But the engineering practicum internship program is a little bit different. It's unique. It is specifically geared for first and second year students, and what it is a 12-week developmental opportunity. And so not only are you paired up with another intern, so rather than having, being one intern with one intern host, more is always better. So you're paired up with another intern, typically from a different school. We usually complement skill sets with our pairings of interns, and as a duo, you're gonna learn a lot from each other, which is really unique. But you're also paired up with 2 intern hosts, so 2 Googlers that work on the same team and will work on that project with you over the course of your internship. And you're sort of doubling up on the brain power that you'll be able to sort of leverage and learn from.
Double trouble.
That's right. And not only that, you end up, you also have mentor support. So you're paired up with another Googler who's effectively your mentor. So they're separate and apart from the host team that you're going to be working with. So if you have any questions where you're like, gosh, I really can't ask my intern manager this question that, it might feel silly, you can go to your mentor. And, they're sort of this impartial, unbiased person there to support you and encourage you throughout the course of your internship. So it's a really supportive program and a really intentionally developmental one. So we know that as first and second year students, you're still building your skills. You're taking your intro CS courses. You're developing your proficiency with maybe just one technical language. So we're not expecting students to come into an engineering practicum internship and be experts right away. So I think that's something that I always stress, because that intimidation factor is often there to think that you have to come in and know everything in order to be successful. That's entirely the opposite with engineering practicum and with our internships too. We have a lot of resources and tools built around the internship program for students to take advantage of, to learn, not only within the context of the project that you're working on, but also within the company. So you'll be able to attend tech talks by senior Googlers, take internal courses. We have something called Grow courses within Google, where you can elect to take a machine learning course or work on something that's sort of outside of your own project scope while you're at Google. And I think that's a really cool way to, again, sort of build on your skills. So that at the end of those, that 12-week program, you come back to campus and you've just got all of this wonderful, amazing experience under your belt that you can share with your peers and apply to your courses and apply to your projects. And so oftentimes it can be hard too, because you can't always necessarily talk about what you worked on. We had a pair in the Google Waterloo office this summer who worked on a really cool project, machine learning related, but they couldn't share what it was they worked on. So all their friends were like, "Oh, that's awesome. What did you do at Google?" And they're like, "We can't tell you." So I mean, there's some
kill you for you.
That's right.
I'll kill you if I tell you. Type of situation at Google now.
But the idea is you're working on, you're coming into these teams, as I said, small, very collaborative teams, working on really impactful projects as first and second year students. And you get a lot of skills-based training as part of that. So I think, you're enhancing your coding skills, you're getting exposed to new, perspectives, new ideas, new tools, new programming languages. It's a win-win. As a student, there's no better experience, I always say, than an internship, because it can teach you things that you don't already know, and it can also teach you more about yourself. And you can kind of learn backwards sometimes. You might learn what you really enjoy, but you also might learn what you really don't enjoy and what you kind of want to pursue in a different direction. And I think that's an important thing too, from especially as computer scientists and software engineers, you're always sort of looking to find that niche and to find that fit. So engineering practicum is a great way to sort of start off on that path when you're in first and second year, and pursue it and see where it takes you over the course of your academic career.
All right.
Yeah.
Solid. Just had a follow-up question on that one. Mm-hmm. So this was for first and second years.
Yes.
What about those who are going to graduate, suppose, this year?
Yes. So I should say that engineering practicum program, it is for first and second year students. Engineering practicum is also, as is Google as a whole, but the program itself is really committed to making technology, the technology industry more diverse. So it's especially geared towards students from traditionally underrepresented groups. So we kind of especially encourage students who are in first and second year from those underrepresented groups to apply for engineering practicum. And it is open for applications now. So students can apply between now. It closes on November 3rd.
Which is Friday next week.
That's like 10 more days everybody has, yeah. So get those applications in.
Should have this episode up by Friday, so...
Cool.
If not, we mentioned November 3rd, so...
Yeah, November 3rd,
Timestamp it, there you go. Perfect. But in terms of other opportunities, if you're looking at graduating soon, yes, we have software engineering university graduate opportunity open right now too. So all of these are on google.com/students. That's kind of, your one-stop shop. You can find all of the opportunities posted online there. But as a soon-to-be university grad, that's a sweet spot to be in. That's a great thing. You're kind of on that cusp of jumping into your professional career, and that's very exciting, kind of nerve-wracking too. But we have a lot of opportunities within Google in that space. So again, depending on what you've worked on over the course of your academic career, what you've included on your application, what really interests you, what those experience has been in. We look at that on your application and see if there's a really great fit on one of our product teams for you. And that application is open right now. It's probably, we're always accepting applications on a rolling basis. So I always say, if you're planning to graduate in the spring and you think, oh, I might wait until January and apply then, apply earlier. The sooner the better, because those projects usually fill up quickly. So because of that rolling basis application sequence. So when you apply earlier, there's more product opportunities and project opportunities available to you. So as a university grad, it's never too soon to start thinking about it. But again, that's kind of an exciting thing to look at from an application to Google perspective. And I think what's really important too is, as a new grad, you might apply to a couple of different opportunities, either within Google, within other tech companies. If you follow one of those, amazing. If you don't, we always encourage students to apply again. I think that's a really important thing too, both from an internship and a university grad perspective. It shows persistence, it shows perseverance, it shows interest, and it shows that passion that I talked about too, that you are really interested in an opportunity with Google. So, I mean, the large majority of folks who currently work at Google have applied a number of times, maybe even have interviewed several times before they've, moved into an opportunity, and that's a very, very normal thing. So it's one of those things that I like to sort of call out, because I think it's important not to get discouraged if you don't end up having an opportunity your first go around.
I think that's really important to note down, because a lot of people, I think, they
give up. They say, I just couldn't get in. I guess it's not for me.
Not gonna lie, that's me.
And it's reasonable. Like, yeah, I wouldn't even think to reapply something.
Yeah, I think what's
I'm not desperate.
I think that is sort of one of the common misconceptions, maybe, that it might look bad if I reapplied, or it might not serve me to do that. But what's really cool about as someone on the university programs and the people operations team is that we have your application, we have your sort of profile on file over the long term. So if let's say you applied for, could be an internship, could have been a university graduate role, and we didn't find that project fit for you at that time, it's not maybe necessarily because your skills, weren't in a place where you could come in and be successful with one of our teams, but it might be that the team fit wasn't there at that point in time. So timing is really everything. So applying again, means that you're kind of opening up yourself to other opportunities later down the road, which could be a great fit. And it also shows, again, that sort of perseverance. The cool thing about the way that our system works is, if you have interviewed with us, let's say, and you did really well in a couple of your interviews, and you totally bombed one of them, which again, super, super common. I think like a very high percentage of Googlers have totally tanked at least one of their interviews, and that is okay. We're all human. That happens. But what we will do if you apply again and you didn't have that opportunity the first time is we'll look back on that interview feedback, and we'll only pull from the positives. So we'll look at, what did you do really well? What were your proficiencies? Where were your points of skill that we thought could apply to opportunities at Google in a great way? And we'll leverage those, and we'll use those for your next application too. So we're never looking at your past applications as a negative thing. It's always coming from a positive place.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Chris, do you have anything else to add?
No, I'm pretty satisfied, I think.
You're gonna apply to Google after this?
I mean, I have a full-time offer at
Oh.
a different company.
Oh, congratulations. That's great. That's fantastic. Yeah, and I think that's what's really special about, the program here at U of T is so strong. You learn a lot. You amass a lot of internship experience over the course of, your 4 or 5 years.
Way better than Waterloo's.
Gosh, I know. And I think that sets you up to be really successful, whether, it's with Google or within the tech industry as a whole. I think, again, you have that sort of ability to find something that's a great fit for you that really speaks to your passions and to your interests.
Yeah, it's a great field to be in general.
Yeah, and it's a great feeling to have that, lined up. So
it is.
Terrific. Yeah, good for you.
Thank you.
I did have another question, actually. All these jobs that we just talked about, they're all actually in Canada, in Waterloo.
So we have jobs that are spread across North America. Okay. So some are, so when you're applying on, that's a great question. When you're applying on google.com/students, you'll often see the roles are broken down by location. When you apply to let's say you're applying to our Mountain View opportunity as a software engineering intern or new grad, you'll see there's, a little disclaimer underneath that application header that says when you're applying for this role, you are considered for 18 different locations, and they're going to list them. Within that is Waterloo, which is our largest Canadian engineering site. So yes, you could, it could be a consideration for a Canadian opportunity. It could be one of our US locations. So later down the road, once you've kind of worked through the interview process with us, you'll have a conversation with your recruiter around your location preference based on the team fit and where those teams are located. So you can kind of always mention, hey, I'm really interested in staying in Canada, or, I'm really, excited about going to the US. So I think that's something that comes into the conversation a little bit later, but you have, it's great to think about that, to think about where you might want to be. Yeah.
Right. I think
we're ready to wrap up, I guess.
Wrap up, yeah. All right. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you both. It was a wonderful conversation. Thank you for having me.
No, not a problem. So again, just for clarification, the applications for Google, what's it called? This
Engineering Practicum Internship
is due November 3rd. I will link the website
we'll send
and the thing onto both like the
SoundCloud and YouTube.
So apply, and we'll see you next time.